Let's start with the truth most men never realize until it's too late. The key to attraction, power, peace, and progress isn't found in chasing. It's found in detachment. Not cold-heartedness, not apathy, not a bitter wall built around your heart, but real, profound detachment. It's the kind of inner stillness that makes people look twice, the kind of emotional control that makes a woman lose her grip, the kind of unshakable calm that makes opportunities start knocking at your door. The second you stop chasing, proving, begging, and needing, the world flips on its axis. The people who ignored you start asking about you. The woman who ghosted you starts stalking your every move online. The job, the respect, the attention. The love you thought you had to sprint after starts running towards you. All because you finally mastered the rarest art in the world. Letting go. Detachment doesn't mean you don't care. It means you don't cling. It means your identity no longer hinges on someone else's behavior. You can love someone without becoming enslaved by them. You can want success without becoming desperate for it. You can aim high without losing sleep over the timeline. It's a silent, spiritual, masculine power, and most men never get here because they think love means holding on so tight you crush it. They think ambition means obsessing until you burn out. They believe desire must equal dependence. But when you detach, you realize that you don't have to grip anything to receive everything. You just have to stop pushing and start becoming. And in that becoming, everything meant for you starts to orbit you naturally. To understand this, you must first understand the prison of attachment. Consider a man named Julian. Julian was a good man, a kind man, a man who loved deeply and gave his all. He was in love with a woman named Maya. To him, Maya was the sun, and his world revolved around her. His happiness was a direct reflection of her mood. If she was happy, he felt a fleeting sense of peace. If she was distant, his entire world turned gray. His phone was a source of constant anxiety, a tiny screen that held the power to validate or destroy his day. A quick reply from her was a hit of dopamine. A delayed one sent him spiraling into a vortex of overthinking. What did I say wrong? Is she losing interest? Is she with someone else? He would rationalize her behavior with a desperate internal monologue, telling himself, she's just busy with work, or maybe she's not a big texter. But deep down, he knew the truth. Her interest was a flickering candle in the wind, and he was spending all his energy trying to cup his hands around it. He was constantly explaining himself, sending long, heartfelt texts trying to articulate his feelings, to make her understand the depth of his devotion. He once spent 20 minutes crafting a paragraph about a memory they shared, hoping to reignite a spark, only to receive a single, sterile, "Haha, yeah, that was fun." 6 hours later, he checked who viewed his stories, hoping to see her name, a tiny sign that he still occupied a space in her mind. He confused this emotional dependency for love. He thought, this is what it means to care deeply. But it wasn't love, it was addiction. He was addicted to her validation, and like any addict, he was powerless. His friend saw it. "Man, you're putting in way too much effort for someone who seems so lukewarm," his friend Mark had told him over a beer. Julian had defended her. "You don't know her like I do. She's just got a lot on her plate." He was defending his own illusion. Maya, like most people, could feel this energy. She felt the weight of his neediness. It wasn't a conscious thought, but a visceral reaction. His clinging energy was suffocating. She began to see his kindness not as a gift, but as an expectation with strings attached. He planned a surprise picnic in the park for her, complete with a checkered blanket, her favorite snacks, and a playlist he'd curated for weeks. She showed up late, spent most of the time on her phone, and left early, claiming she had a headache. Julian cleaned it all up alone, the uneaten food feeling like a metaphor for his unreciprocated effort. And when she pulled away further, Julian would chase harder. He would double text, call, plan even more elaborate dates to win her back, all of which only pushed her further away. He was living in a state of perpetual fear, the fear of losing her. But he didn't realize he had already lost her, and more importantly, he had lost himself. The breaking point came on a Thursday night. He had planned a special dinner at a new Italian place she'd mentioned wanting to try. She canceled an hour before, her text a casual, "Hey, so tired, can we rain check?" Julian's heart sank, a familiar, sickening drop into a pit of disappointment. He replied with a forced casualness, "No worries, get some rest," while his mind screamed. Later that evening, unable to silence the noise in his head, he opened Instagram. There she was, in a friend's story, at a loud bar, laughing. Her smile was genuine, effortless, a smile he hadn't seen directed at him in months. The camera panned, and he saw her lean in to talk to a man who was looking over her head, seemingly bored. Yet, her focus was entirely on him. It was a clean, sharp blade to the heart. It wasn't just that she had lied. It was the brutal clarity of the situation. He wasn't her source of joy. He was her source of emotional labor, an obligation she had to manage. To in that moment of profound pain, something shifted. It was the quiet, terrifying realization that he had built the prison he was living in. His problem wasn't Maya, it was his attachment to the illusion of her. He thought she was the key to his happiness, but she was just the lock on his cage. The pain was unbearable, but it was also a gift. It was the catalyst that forced him to look in the mirror and face the man he had become, a beggar for affection, a man whose worth was determined by someone else's whim. That night, he scrolled back through months of their text history. It was a digital testament to his desperation. Long, blue paragraphs of his own words, met with short, sporadic gray bubbles of hers. It was pathetic. He felt a wave of shame, so intense it made him nauseous. That night, he didn't text her. He didn't call her out. He didn't post a passive-aggressive quote. He just went silent. Not a strategic, manipulative silence designed to get a reaction, but a deep, mournful silence born of surrender. He surrendered the fight. He surrendered the need for closure. He surrendered the hope that she would one day see his worth. He chose to sit with his own pain, to feel the full weight of his loneliness, not as a punishment, but as a starting point. He left to remember who the hell he was. And in that silence, in that solitude, the journey toward detachment began. He decided to go ghost, not to punish her, but to build himself. He was done chasing love that hurt, friendships that betrayed, and a version of himself that was weak. He was going to find out what it felt like to be free. The first few weeks were a detox. Julian's thumb would hover over her contact, his mind replaying every conversation, every memory. The urge to reach out, to get one last hit of connection, was a physical ache. This is the stage where most men break. They mistake the pain of withdrawal for the pain of love and rush back to the source of their suffering. There was one night, around 2 a.m., where Julian typed out a long, rambling message, a final plea for an explanation. His finger hovered over the send button. His heart pounded. He felt the pull of his old self, the addict needing a fix. But then he looked at the words on the screen and felt a surge of disgust. This was not strength. This was begging. With a deep, shuddering breath, he deleted the entire message, turned off his phone, and did push-ups on his floor until his muscles burned and his mind was empty. He was transmuting his emotional pain into physical power that he stopped looking for, answers outside of himself, and started building a world within. He devoured books on philosophy, particularly Stoicism, reading about Marcus Aurelius and Seneca. The idea of focusing only on what he could control, his thoughts, his actions, his character, became his new mantra. He started a small side project he had put off for years, a web design business, pouring his focus into creating something tangible and valuable. His mornings were no longer for checking his phone. They were for meditation, for journaling about his values, for sitting in the quiet and listening to his own thoughts without judgment. He was learning to enjoy his own presence, to find peace in his own company. He was no longer a man defined by a relationship. He was a man on a mission. Months passed. Julian was different. The anxious, pleading energy that once surrounded him had been replaced by a calm, grounded presence. He didn't walk with arrogance, but with a quiet authority that came from within. His life was full, not with distractions, but with purpose. This is when the world begins to flip. He demonstrated his newfound frame at his job. A major project deadline was moved up, sending his team into a panic. While others were frantic, pointing fingers and stressing over the timeline, Julian calmly took a whiteboard, broke the project down into manageable microtasks, and assigned them with clear direction. His manager, who had previously overlooked him, watched with quiet admiration. He wasn't trying to be a leader. He just became one because he was no longer led by his emotions. He eventually started dating again, but he moved differently. He was no longer auditioning. He was observing. He went on a date with a woman named Chloe. She was beautiful and engaging, but he noticed she constantly checked her phone. The old Julian would have ignored it, desperate to win her over. The new Julian saw it as a sign of disrespect. He didn't call her out or get passive-aggressive. Instead, when she was in the middle of typing a text, he simply stopped talking and waited patiently. The silence became noticeable. She looked up, flustered. "Sorry," she mumbled. He just smiled. "No problem. Take your time." He wasn't angry, but the message was clear. His attention was not a given. At the end of the date, he was polite but didn't ask for a second one. He had standards now, not just words on a page, but an enforced reality. He was willing to walk away from anything that didn't align with his peace. And then, one Tuesday afternoon, his phone buzzed. An unknown number. "Hey, it's Maya. Been a while." Julian stared at the screen. A year ago, this message would have sent his heart racing. Now, he felt a flicker of curiosity, nothing more. He had healed. He didn't need her apology. He was whole without her. That is the moment of true power that he agreed to meet for coffee, not for her, but for himself, to close a chapter by seeing how far he had come. When he walked in, he saw her. Before she saw him, she looked the same, but his perception of her had changed. He no longer saw a goddess. He saw a person. She was visibly nervous, fidgeting with her cup. She tried to bring up an old inside joke, a memory of a time they had laughed together. The old Julian would have clung to that, seeing it as an olive branch. The new Julian simply smiled genuinely. "Yeah, that was a good day," he said, and then gently steered the conversation back to the present. He didn't get lost in the nostalgia she was offering. "You seem different," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "Happy." "I am," he replied, a small, genuine smile on his face. "I've been busy building." In that moment, she felt the full weight of her loss. It wasn't just a man she had lost. It was a man who had the power to walk away with peace. She realized she had been a character in his story, but she was no longer the plot. He had become his own story. The man she once saw as a guarantee was now a mystery. He didn't hate her. He didn't resent her. Worse, she didn't matter enough to him to warrant strong emotion. That quiet indifference was more devastating to her ego than any insult he could have hurled. He finished his coffee, wished her well, and walked away. He didn't look back. He was not walking away from her. He was walking toward his future. He understood now. The man Maya wanted back was the man he had to destroy to become who he is now. Her return wasn't a testament to his value. It was simply a delayed reaction to the value he had built in her absence. As Julian walked out into the afternoon sun, he didn't look back. His world was no longer built on the shaky foundation of external validation. He had built a kingdom within himself, founded on discipline, purpose, and a peace so profound that it didn't need anyone else's permission to exist. He wasn't chasing anything anymore. He had become the man everything good chases. He was the source. He was the gravity. And his life, once a frantic pursuit, had finally become a calm, powerful orbit.